hi everyone, and thanks for checking back in for yet another episode of Announcing the Game, where we always look to share our experiences with you to help to make you a better public address announcer. I'm Tom Winnicky. I've been a public address announcer at Fayetteville Manlius High School in central New York State for many years for many of their sports. I've even had the pleasure to announce Section 3 championships in central New York in many of those sports. I'm still the public address announcer for the New York State Public High School Athletic Association state championships for girls lacrosse and for football. Now, I'm primarily a public address announcer at Syracuse University of the Atlantic Coast Conference and at Colgate University of the Patriot League. I'm also the National Association of Sports Public Address Announcers Public Address Announcer of the Year from 2017. In this episode of Announcing the Game, we'll talk about script writing. We'll talk about why it's important to work from a script, as well as how to put together a solid script for your next event. I'll also show you some sample ideas for scripting different situations. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to scripts, I fall right in line with all those young scouts out there. It's always best to be prepared. And for all of you out there with your own children, we've reminded them countless times that while we can't control what happens to us, we can control how we react to it. The same holds true for us in our role as a public address announcer. We should aim to be as prepared as possible for every scenario that we can come up with. Now, ad-libbing has its place. There may be an on-court fan contest at halftime that we get to announce, and we can certainly have some fun ad-libbing something like this. But for everything else for us as a public address announcer, scripting is the gold standard. It eliminates mistakes. I find myself that I tend to make mistakes if I drift away from the script and try to ad-lib something without preparing for it ahead of time. I always know that if I keep to the script, I know that I will say what needs to be said, say it at the right time, and I will say it correctly. So since this is so important, let's jump right in and see how we, and as a result, the fans, can benefit from us using a script. So, what exactly is script writing? The simple answer is writing down what needs to be said. And in its simplest form, I guess that's true. But to really write and read a good script for an event, first, you need to know the answer to 3 questions. The first is, who are we talking to? Number 2, what do they need to know? And number 3, what's the best way to say it? I like to write as if I'm having a conversation with someone. I want to write it in a conversational way so it comes across to a fan as, hey, let me listen to this guy. More on this as we get into specific examples. So let's go over ways that you can use the answers to these 3 questions to help you write a good, solid script. Well, if you're working at a college, a script will more than likely be given to you. Some high schools may have it prepared also, but many just don't. Or the high school athletics director may just tell you, hey, give some general welcome, introduce the anthem, call the starters, then announce the game, and at the end, say something to close up shop. Well, okay, that's all well and good, but if this is our situation, what do we do? First, let's talk about the structure of a game-long script. What order will things be in? Now, ultimately, that's up to the host. Certain places may want you to read a welcome first, or maybe some housekeeping items, then do the national anthem, then get into the starting lineups and the officials, and then start the game. Other places may want the national anthem played first, then read some housekeeping items, start to ramp up the intensity with a general welcome to both teams, do the starting lineups, and then the game starts. Well, we can certainly offer our opinions and our insights as to this order, but the ultimate decision lies with the host school. We go off what they want done. Our job is just to make sure that we have the scripts ready to put in whatever order we are told. Now, that being said, see what you think about this train of thought. When taken from the beginning, typically, I like to think of things as being calm and gradually building up the excitement until we get to game time. That helps me in the past put things in a good structure. The first thing you could read would be housekeeping items, where the concession stands are, where the restrooms are, where the fire exits are. You could include a sportsmanship read here as well. Folks are just getting settled in, so this seems to fit pretty well here. After that, it would seem to be a good time to go with a general welcome. Welcome everybody to the facility and saying who's playing in the game. Once you now have everybody's attention, it would seem best to play the national anthem next. Again, for me, people are already quiet, and it's easy to get their attention to stay quiet, to turn and face the flag for the national anthem. To me, introducing the starting lineups would logically be the next thing to do, beginning with our guests. You see, we're gradually now building up the excitement until the game begins. And you could also include the officials' names after you've done both teams. The structure would continue once the game begins. You may have scheduled ads to read during predetermined breaks in game action. There might be concession stand reads that you could add in here. That'd be a good thing to put in right before halftime. Halftime could also include an on-field or on-court fan contest. It'd be a good time for you maybe to read more ads. Or if there's that contest, remember we talked about ad-libbing. This is the time you could do that. Once the game ends, the structure would conclude with a post-game read. So now that we had that general idea as to how everything goes and where they fit, let's start building those scripts. Remember those 3 questions from earlier? Who are you talking to? What needs to be said? And what's the best way to say it? What makes a good script? Well, as we said, it says what's needed. It's brief but complete and sounds like a conversation, not like you're reading something off of a piece of paper. So let's begin with that general welcome first. Who are you talking to? That's easy, the fans. What do they need to know? How about where are we? Who's playing? What to do for the national anthem? Who are the starters? What are the coaches' names? Maybe the officials' names. They would also need to know things like where the concession stands or the restrooms are. Also something about fire exits, whether the fire marshal requires that or not. Now, as I said earlier, these housekeeping items are probably best read before your formal introduction and welcome. Now, here's an example of something you could read before your general introduction, taking care of all those housekeeping announcements. See what you think. Ladies and gentlemen, today's game will begin in 15 minutes. While you're waiting, please note that our concession stand is located in the main foyer, directly opposite from the visiting team's bench. Our restrooms are located down the hall in the foyer to the right. Fire exits are located through the main doors, directly opposite both teams' benches. Proceed straight through the foyer and out to the left into the parking lot. Once there, you will be directed to a safe place. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your cooperation and your understanding. Now, did you hear me address those 3 questions? Talking to the fans, what they needed to know, and sounding welcoming. Now let's move to that general welcome read. Write it so it sounds like you're glad that they're all here, not like something that you have to say before every single game all season long. Maybe something like this. Welcome back, everyone, here to Fayetteville Manlius High School for tonight's game between the East Syracuse Manoa Spartans and our Fayetteville Manlius Hornets. Or how about this? Welcome home, everyone. Back here to the campus of Colgate University and here to Cotterell Court for tonight's Patriot League contest between the Bucknell Bison and our Colgate Raiders. Now, you've seen me in our other videos. You've heard me talk about respectful enthusiasm for our guests, respecting the work they put in, just like our team does. This shows up when you still read their starters with respect. You could show a little more juice for the home team, nothing wrong with that. Above all else, though, make sure you get all the names pronounced correctly. Now, when introducing the national anthem, while there are specific protocols for this, there are many respectful ways to introduce the anthem. If you'd like to see more of these protocols, check out our other tutorial on the subject. Now, here's a few examples for you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we would like to ask that, if you are able, to please rise and please remove your hats as you face our flag with your right hand over your heart to honor America with the playing of our national anthem. Or how about this? Ladies and gentlemen, we now draw your attention to the flag for the playing of our national anthem. Or, how about this? Ladies and gentlemen, we now ask that you please rise and remove your caps as we honor this great nation and those who have served with the playing of our national anthem. Now, thinking back to those three examples, did I hit those three questions so the fans were well informed in an appropriate way? What do you think? So let's say you're getting to the starting lineups next. How about this? Now let's get right to tonight's starting lineups. First, for our guests, the Spartans from East Syracuse Manoa High School. And then you continue with all the starters. And now let's meet the starting lineup for our Fayetteville Manlius Hornets. A little more juice for the home team, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, one note about introducing starting lineups. Different coaches in different sports differ as to how they want their starting lineups read. Some coaches may just want names and numbers. Some may want position, year in school, number, and name. Some may want something else. We may have an idea as to what we want to do and say for a starting lineup, but if the coaches have a way that they want it read, that's what we do. It's their game, and we announce their lineup their way. Now let's say you go ahead to introduce the officials. It could sound something like this. The officials for this evening's game are certified by the International Association of Approved Basketball Officials, Board 38. They are Mr. Tom Smith, Mr. Bill Adams, and Mr. Sam James. Now, I always like introducing the officials with a Mr., Ms., or Mrs. Again, just a little bit of way to throw some well-earned respect their way. Now, again, a bit off topic, but still important. It's important to be specific to the sport. At a high school, for example, football, soccer, and field hockey may all use the same field. It's a field for football and field hockey, but for soccer, it's a pitch. Just something that shows that you both have the knowledge for these different sports and that you also respect the traditions of these different sports. So, a substitute would come onto the field for a football game or a field hockey game, but they would enter the pitch when they enter a soccer game. Not so much something to worry about when writing a script, but just something to pay attention to respect the game that you're announcing. Okay, enough of my going off topic a bit and yeah, off script. So let's get back to those scripts. You can see some little things that I like to include. Things like referring to our opponents as our guests. Just a way to show some well-deserved respect their way. Just another example of that respectful enthusiasm that I talked about when you answer that third question about what's the best way to say something. But when would you handle a welcome read a bit differently? How about for a tournament or a neutral site game? It would seem obvious to include copy about things like concessions, restrooms, and fire exits because this is a neutral site. The fans from both schools aren't familiar with the venue. Now, one point about announcing a neutral site game is to treat both teams with that equal amount of respect and enthusiasm. For games like this, we're not there to show favoritism to one team or the other. Our job is to be respectful and neutral to both teams. This goes again to answer that third question. What's the best way to read this? How about something on sportsmanship? A league or conference may have a set script that they want us to read for their contest. Well, that's easy for us. We just read what they give us. If we need to come up with it ourselves, go back to those three questions. Who are we talking to? What needs to be said? And what's the best way to say it? Who are we talking to? The fans. What needs to be said? Are we proactively addressing their behavior? Are certain noisemakers or laser pointers or is flash photography already prohibited? What about fans that leave the stands and go onto the playing surface? Or they throw an object? Then ask, what's the best way to say something like this? Well, what happens when someone shoots a laser pointer at a free throw shooter or makes a noise at the start of a race on the track or in the pool? Well, first and foremost, that person is affecting the game. And I don't mean yelling loud on third down or yelling at a free throw shooter from the stands. Laser pointers, noisemakers, flash photography, things like this go beyond that line. There's something called a home field advantage, and there's also going over that line. We are there with the event staff to promote staying behind that line. Again, when we ask that third question, what's the best way to say it? We need to sound like we're enlisting the crowd's help in promoting sportsmanship. Now, while these are competitive events, everyone in attendance, fans, athletes, coaches, officials, all have a part in keeping things on an even keel. Here's some examples. The Atlantic Coast Conference promotes good sportsmanship by student athletes, coaches, and spectators. We request your cooperation by supporting the participants and officials in a positive manner. Profane, racist, sexist, or other intimidating actions directed at officials, student athletes, coaches, team representatives, or other spectators will not be tolerated and are grounds for removal from the site of competition. We greatly appreciate your help in making this event a positive experience for all participants and attendees. Now, did you notice the words that I emphasized differently? The part about sportsmanship from student athletes, coaches, and spectators? Yes, fans, you are part of sportsmanship here as well. Or the part about supporting the participants and officials in a positive manner. Sounds more important and applicable than if we just say, supporting the participants and officials in a positive manner, without any emphasis. Or how about this sentence? We greatly appreciate your help in making this event a positive experience for all participants and attendees. Now, can you see how these words emphasized this way brings attention to them in enlisting everybody's help? Or here's another one. Cazenovia and Cortland high schools have many traditions. Poor sportsmanship is not one of them. Let's support the athletes from both teams in a positive manner. Make them as proud of us as we are of them. Thank you. Or how about this? Orchard Park High School is a proud member of the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. Parents, fans, and community members all play a role in setting a positive example for our student athletes. Help us to grow that spirit of citizenship and set a positive example in all that you do. Good sportsmanship is what sets our school apart. Now, as you go back and look at these examples, I hope you see how they address those three questions. Feel free to use any of these and modify them to best fit your situation, or maybe even better, I hope these examples give you ideas to create even better ones to use. How about fans coming onto the court or down onto the field? Now, you may have already proactively addressed this as part of your housekeeping announcements, but now you can tell that things could go sideways really quick and you feel the need to say something. Now, be careful, because something like this can't just be said on its own. An announcement like this needs to be used in concert with the game site officials and their plan for a scenario like this. Always ask if you should potentially make this announcement like this before the game. In a bigger arena, security may need to be set to ring the court or the field. At a high school event, maybe in a smaller gym, the plan may be for staff members to actually go up into the stands, to be a presence among students and other fans to try to keep things calm while you make that second announcement. In any event, your announcements need to coordinate with this other action to be most effective. Now, we've all seen court storming and goalposts being taken down, and there's at times that this just cannot be prevented. We just work in concert with event staff to do our best to prevent things like this from happening. Now, here's an example for you. Ladies and gentlemen, please be reminded that for the safety of the athletes and participants, throwing objects onto the floor is strictly prohibited. Failure to adhere to this directive may result in removal from the arena. Thank you. Now, will this work for you? Or does it get you thinking about something better for your setting? How about an emergency? Now, one of our examples from a general welcome included information on the fire exits. So if the alarm does go off at your event, quickly and calmly repeat those instructions. Remember the question about what they need to know and the best way to say it. It goes without saying that any announcement like this in the heat of the moment should be done in a calm, reassuring voice. People, quite honestly, could react in a way moving towards panic. Our calm, reassuring, yet urgent voice only goes to reassure and to inform them of where to go and how to get there. Be sure to include where the fire exits are, how to follow the ushers or school staff's direction at once and once outside to move to that safe designated area. Some announcers include asking people to take all their valuables with them. I can understand that, but that's a bit tricky because you want them outside as quick as possible, but you don't want them leaving something valuable inside either. It could sound something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, please calmly and quickly gather your family and your belongings. Follow the direction of event staff to lead you out through our fire exits, which are directly across from both team benches. Once outside, please proceed into the parking lot. Once there, when we know further information, we'll pass that on to you. And we appreciate you staying calm during this time. Thank you. Again, work with your location staff. Is there local police presence at your games? Make sure they're included in your announcements. Again, we don't make these decisions on where to go in an evacuation or who to take direction from. We just communicate these decisions to all in attendance. Now we have another of our free tutorials put together to go a bit more in depth about how to handle emergency situations. If you'd like more information on that topic, check it out. Is smoking or vaping allowed on school grounds? Does chewing tobacco fall into this category? Find out your site's policies and add it to those pre-game announcements. It could sound something like this. Now as you listen, see if you can find the answer to those 3 questions here in this example. Ladies and gentlemen, in accordance with the school policy, smoking, vaping, or any other use of tobacco is prohibited on our school grounds. Failure to comply could result in removal from the game site. We appreciate your thoughtfulness in making this event enjoyable for everyone. So you're talking to the fans, telling them what the rules and consequences are, and saying it in a way that enlists their cooperation. Colleges and many high schools now have sponsor ads to be read. Be sure to get these ahead of time so you can rehearse them if they're created for you. Find out when these are to be read. Colleges and some high schools will put together a timing sheet. This shows exactly when ads like this are to be read. Maybe it's coordinated with a video board as well. Well, be sure to find this out before getting to the game site. If you're not provided with something like a timing sheet, at the very least, find out how long these breaks are in the action. How long is it called timeout for that sport? How long is a break between periods? How long is halftime? Are there media breaks built in? Now this last one is mainly a college thing, but with more and more high school contests being televised, this is something you could check out for your high school games. Now, what this will do for you is give you a general idea as to how much time you have to read the ads that you're given. It lets you start to see how many you can fit into each break. Now, typically, these are done at artificial breaks, halftime, period breaks, or televised media events. Now, maybe you've been in this situation that I found myself in. You're given a list of ads to read and are told, well, just fit them in the best you can. Well, that's all great. But which one of these people is going to be upset if I don't read their ad? When that happens to me, I start counting the number of breaks there are in the game, as well as how many ads I have to read. I divide the number of ads by the number of breaks to get about what I should read during each break. Now I also take into consideration team timeouts that may be called to give me a bit more wiggle room to get all these ads read. Now, if I've already found out how long these timeouts are, I have a better idea as to how many ads I can fit into each break and when I can put them in. If you're given the control over when to read certain ads, think about this. Assume that the game will get more and more exciting toward the end. Fans at that point will be focusing completely on the game and probably won't be paying attention to you reading an ad as a public address announcer. So here's an idea that I got from the director of marketing at Syracuse University. See if you can get most of these sponsor ads read at the very least by the end of the first half and through halftime. If you need to go briefly into the beginning of the second half, well, that's okay. But if you can get most of them done before the last half of the second half, or if your game has 4 quarters, before the 4th quarter, that would be a good idea. Now, since all the sponsors want people to listen to their ads, it's best to put them in a place where people will be more likely to be listening to them early in the game. So if the game is coming down to the wire, the fans' attention will be and should be on the game and shouldn't be on any ads that are being read. So if at all possible, put the ads in the first half and let the game's natural excitement towards the end take everybody's attention. Now, there may be times when you may have to read the same ad 2 or 3 times in the same game. Well, instead of saying it the same way 3 times, can you figure out different ways to use inflection to sound a bit different, but still get the message from those ads across to the fans? Here's an example. Gate Lacrosse is the official equipment supplier of Syracuse University men's lacrosse. Gate Equipment develops the most innovative and authentic performing products in the game. Being unexpected leads to being legendary. Follow @GateLaxOfficial on Instagram and visit GateLaxOfficial.com to revolutionize your game. Gate Lacrosse. Be legendary! So the next time you read that same copy in the same game, emphasize words differently, but you still get the sponsor's message across. See if you can notice the difference. Gate Lacrosse is the official equipment supplier of Syracuse University men's lacrosse. Gate Equipment develops the most innovative and authentic performing products in the game. Being unexpected leads to being legendary. Follow @GateLaxOfficial on Instagram and visit GateLaxOfficial.com to revolutionize your game. Gate Lacrosse. Be legendary! Now, something else you could add to reading a piece of copy multiple times in the same game is to preface it by saying something like this. Remember, fans, Gate Lacrosse is the official equipment supplier of... You could say, just remember, fans, we've said this before, but I just want to draw your attention to it again. What we certainly don't want to do is turn into Charlie Brown's Teacher, where we're just background noise, not worthy of being listened to. You're just reminding them that you've mentioned this once before and you want to reiterate it. How about other organizations? For a high school event, how could you promote the local booster club that's manning the concession stand? Or maybe it's a specific team in the athletic program manning the concession stands to raise money for their team. Well, once again, go back to those 3 questions. Who are you talking to? The answer, the fans. What do they need to know? The answer, where are the concessions? What's on the menu? How is that money that's being raised? How's it going to be used? Then, what's the best way to say this? Well, this is an easy answer, with some enthusiasm towards those staffing the stand. Something possibly like this. Our concession stand is located off the north end zone and will stay open throughout tonight's game. Parents from our JV football team are manning things for us this evening as they work to raise funds to support our football program. Plenty of items on the menu tonight, including Mrs. Jackson's famous traveling tacos and Mr. Smith's double cheeseburgers. Find this and much more tonight at our concession stand. Maybe you're working a bigger event with multiple concession areas. Local organizations may be manning these to raise money for their groups. Include the names of these organizations, where they're located, and how their purchases help these organizations raise money for their causes. Again, who are you talking to? What do they need to know? And how is it best to say it? Well, take a listen. How does this one sound? Ladies and gentlemen, we have 9 different concession stands set up on the concourse, all staffed by local nonprofit organizations. During breaks in the action today, please take the time to visit one or more of these stands. Your kind support helps aid these organizations in their nonprofit missions. Thank you for your support. Now, was I able to answer those 3 questions? Can you come up with one that's better for your situation? I'm sure you can. What about something like Senior Day? I've heard a lot of you in different public address announcer groups online say how you're frustrated because you're given information at the last minute with no time to plan or to rehearse. Well, that happened to me, and I made sure it only happened once. After that, I always made it a point to get this information ahead of time, find out who's in charge, and contact them well in advance. Explain that you want to do things right by the kids and their parents, and that you want the names ahead of time, and be sure to let them know that you'll be contacting them for pronunciations. Now, once you have all that, you need an introduction and a closing to the senior day. Well, number one, who are you talk to? What do they need to know? And what's the best way to say it? You're basically talking to the parents who will be walking out with their kids. You're talking to the fans also, but basically, you're talking to the parents here. What do they need to know? Who are the players? Who's walking out with them? And what are their plans after high school? Or if this is for a college senior day, what their degree will be. Now, I always stay away from those senior written scripts. Those, in my opinion, can get carried away and can get really long. Again, in my opinion, they are best served for a team banquet. So how about something like this? Welcome everyone to our Senior Day proceedings, where we will be honoring 7 very special senior student athletes and their families. We want to take a few valuable minutes to recognize all that these students and their families have done over these years in dedication to their team and to our program. Our first senior, number 15, Andy Smithson. He is accompanied by his dad, Joe, and his mom, Mary, along with his brother, Mark, and sister, Lacey. And he will be studying physical education at SUNY Cortland in the fall. Now, this then continues through all the seniors on your list. And now to close things up, remember those 3 questions. Maybe you come up with something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, one more well-deserved round of applause for our 2025 senior class. We can't wait to hear what all of your next great accomplishments are. So, did I answer those 3 questions? What do you think? So, you can probably see that there's a lot that goes into writing good scripts for your next contest, but once you start to get the hang of it, it does get pretty easy. Now, one thing that we should never lose sight of as public address announcers is that we need to stay flexible. We need to keep in mind that we are working for somebody else. We are not working for ourselves. Things come up unexpectedly during almost every game. Someone may tell us to do something at the very last minute, and we are expected to make that change. We cannot be so ingrained in the schedule that we think we need to follow that we're not open to being flexible when those things inevitably change. And then there's this. That always goes without saying. We are not, or should never be, a play-by-play announcer. The focus is on the game and the action itself. That is who people are paying attention to. They are not buying a ticket to listen to us. Saying who scored a basket, who got a first down, who hit the kill for a point, who scored the goal and at the assist. That is what we pay attention to and what we announce. We are never there to offer play-by-play. So yes, we need to know how important it is to stick to the script, stay away from play-by-play, and yet at the same time, be flexible and open to those inevitable last-minute sudden changes. You see, no one in the stands knows that there was a last-minute change to be made. Our job is to make it sound like that last-minute change was planned all along. All of the examples that we use today in this video are available for you at publicaddressannouncer.org. Now, once there, look across the top of the screen and click on Tools. Once there, scroll down until you see Reads. They're all there, plus more, just waiting for you to take for free and use as they are or modify them to fit your situation. So that wraps up our discussion of script writing. I hope this has made you a bit more comfortable when you have to come up with your own scripts. Feel free to send me a comment to my email address on the screen. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, log in and send us a comment that way. We're always looking for constructive comments as we look to create more of these free video tutorials. Also, feel free to browse our website, publicaddressannouncer.org, for more information and resources in all things public address announcing. Well, thanks again for tuning in to watch another episode of Announcing the Game. I'm Tom Winnicky, and I look forward to hearing you on the mic.